why would anybody take a philosophy course to learn about how to be in love? Seems like an odd thing to do. Indeed, it seems like a fairly odd thing for anybody to be required to take 2 philosophy courses at all. It's a fairly unusual requirement. The reason that our institution requires everybody to take 2 philosophy courses has a lot to do with our history. It used to be that virtually every student at Notre Dame, in effect, was a philosophy major, because every student at a Catholic university was required to take 6 or sometimes 8 philosophy courses. Those were the glory days of the past, and they've been gone for quite a while now. But we still have everybody take 2 courses, in part with a view to a Catholic understanding of what a liberal education would be. The notion that some experience of philosophy is a part of the mental equipment of any educated person, particularly somebody educated to be a kind of Catholic intellectual. Now, how much our philosophy department lives up to that particular aspiration is an open question. It's an open question that we debate among ourselves, among the faculty, all the time. What sort of thing can we do in only 2 courses, after all? 2 courses that, I take it I'm not letting you in on any deep secret, are often not at the intellectual center of a student's semester. What can we do to contribute to a liberal education, that is, an education that frees your mind, not just for this moment or this week or this semester, but so that when you're 30 or 40 or 60 and you come back to Notre Dame and you're moving your own kids into the dorms, that your mind will go back to those things, and they'll be part of your equipment, part of the way you see the world, part of the way you address it. This course is intended to be a contribution to that sort of view of liberal education. It's supposed to be a course that shakes up the way you think, so that the world comes to you in a different form, that your mode of address to the world will be changed. Philosophy by no means is the only subject that does that, but in many ways philosophy does it in a privileged way. It's been a part of the tradition of philosophy exactly to shake up what we're likely to take for granted, or where we're likely to start. So that the first thing I'm going to have you do as part of the conversation of this course is to watch a movie that surely shook me up. And so I'm suspecting it will also shake you up. This is the movie Exotica by the Canadian director Adam Egoyan. We'll show that movie during the normal lecture time on Friday. There won't be discussion sections this week. We don't have anything on the table yet to discuss. So during the regular lecture time at 1:55 in this very room, we'll show the movie that kind of kicks off the opening of thought, the liberal education, that we hope will go on throughout the course of this semester. Those of you who can't attend that particular showing, the movie is a little under 2 hours long, so it'll run roughly from 2 to 4. Those of you who can't attend that showing, the movies for the course will be on reserve as well. I've got to check to make sure. I'll try to have them on reserve both here in the Media Center and over in the library on the 2nd floor. But I'll have to let you know to be sure that they're in both places. One of the features of this course that's unusual for a philosophy course is that of all the things we're reading or viewing over the course of the semester, really only 2 of them are obvious philosophy books. They're both dialogues by Plato. Plato's Symposium and Plato's Phaedrus, his 2 great dialogues on the nature of erotic love. What makes the course philosophical, at least in aspiration, is not just the things that we're reading or the things that we're viewing. It's the mode of approach that we take to them. Intellectually, this course is organized around three things. On the one hand, there's Plato. Plato's the philosopher who wrote most importantly and most deeply about the nature of erotic love. Certainly other philosophers had interesting things to say about love and about friendship, but none of them have achieved the sort of excellence and beauty that Plato achieved. The second pillar of the course is Shakespeare. Shakespeare, for those of us whose native language is English anyway, is the single greatest voice. It's Shakespeare's way of understanding human love, both its trials and its triumphs, that really holds in a kind of remote control most of the English language tradition about love. So we'll be reading two Shakespeare plays, Othello and A Midsummer Night's Dream. There are many, many different ways to get a handle on Shakespeare, to approach him. For us, we'll be approaching Shakespeare as a kind of theorist about love. Shakespeare is one of the inventors of a specifically modern way of understanding love. When we get to him, we'll talk more about what's distinctively modern, about the way he makes his characters, the way he sees the problems or the difficulties of love, and also the ways he sees the possibilities in love. The third aspect of the course is a more distinctively Catholic aspect, not in a theological sense, but in a broader cultural sense. A set of material, including short stories by a great American Catholic writer named André Dubusse, along with some other more directly Catholic material, that develops a distinctively Catholic view of the nature of sexuality and of marriage. This view is, in contemporary America, a rather countercultural view, though it's still obviously contemporary. It's also very much a philosophical view. It's a view that claims to be rooted in human nature, not particularly in revelation. Revelation or Scripture may help us to articulate the view, but the view understands itself as philosophical in the sense that it's based on a penetration into what human nature requires, what human nature makes possible in the realm of love. So that Catholic dimension of the course is the third aspect, along with the Shakespearean dimension and the Platonic dimension. So that's the big structure of the course. Another thing that's distinctive about the course is that there are a bunch of movies in it. I've usually had anywhere from 3 to 5 movies. This time I have 7. I don't know if that makes it 2 times better or not, but over the years I've used different movies, and I liked them so much I wanted to use more of them. Now, let me say a little bit about how movies fit into a philosophical course. One thing that the movies do is to provide us with shared examples. Philosophy, at least if it's going to talk about humanly meaningful things, doesn't proceed very well in the abstract. We need some starting points. We need something concrete that we can look at. The storytelling of a movie is a way to make issues vivid to ourselves. So while you're watching the movies for this course, I hope you find them enjoyable in the ways that you normally find movies enjoyable. But I also hope that there's a kind of depth to the way you enjoy them that might be different from a movie you just go to see for relaxation or for fun. That the enjoyment is the kind of enjoyment that comes from being in a position to have a searching conversation with somebody you care about the nature of love. Now, I've said that the movies serve the function of being rich examples for us, giving us cases to talk about. But I don't think that's all that the movies are. Philosophy is, by its nature, a very imperialist discipline. We more or less try to control everything else that we come in contact with. To make of a movie something no more than an example that then we can apply, say, a philosophical theory to, is a very imperialist, very controlling kind of move. I don't want the movies to just be something that philosophy dominates, that philosophy gives an analysis of, tells the truth of, and then throws the movie away. I want the way a movie thinks itself to be philosophical for us. I want us to let the movies test our philosophizing, not just for the movies to be the thing that are tested. So we need to find ways to let our thinking think like the movies do. The combination of images, of music, the particular experience we have of being absorbed into a movie when we watch it. The fact that watching a movie is, at its best, is a communal experience. Now, of course, nowadays you can all watch movies all by yourself. You can even, if your schedule forces you to, watch a great movie in a crummy little carrel on the second floor of the library on a bad television. But that's not the full movie experience. Part of the movie experience is to see it communally. Where you laugh, how you laugh, what strikes you. Those things are very much affected by seeing a movie with other people. Especially by seeing a movie with other people we enjoy. And I hope that's going to be true for some subset of the people in here. So, I want to let the movies do their own philosophical work. I don't want the movies just to be scarecrow examples that illustrate some philosophical point. I want them to be thoughtful as well. So, the movies are as much texts in this course as what we're going to read from Plato or from Shakespeare is a text in this course. And I would like you to try to give the same attention to detail in both watching the movie and then in going back in your mind, in memory to the movie, that you would give to a book that you read. So, something that's distinctive about this course is that I want to try to take movies seriously as thoughtful. It's always a bit of an experiment, whether that will succeed. To some extent, this is also true of the short stories or the plays that we'll read as part of the course. The short stories and the plays also give us raw material for our conversation. They give us illustrations. But I hope that they're not just inert illustrations. I hope that they test us at the same time that we're testing them. Let me say a little bit about some general themes that will run through the course. This will be a very preliminary sketch, and I hope as the semester goes along, we'll keep accumulating more details, more categories, more ways to think about things. One set of themes, and this will be clustered right at the beginning of the semester, has to do with the balance between enjoyment and need in love, especially in erotic love, but also in friendship. In a couple who's in love, who's more in love? The partner who enjoys the other person more, or the partner who needs the other person more? There's something exhilarating in love about feeling a sense of need for that distinctive, unique other person. but there's also something frightening in it, something challenging about it. We tend, on the one hand, to want to accept our own neediness, indeed in a way to celebrate it, to offer up our vulnerability to our beloved, to our lover. But we also want to protect ourselves. We want to know that the use our lover makes of that vulnerability won't hurt us, won't threaten us. So the balance between enjoyment and need seems to me one of the central questions about the nature of erotic love. The movie Exotica strikes me as an unusually perceptive attempt to think through this question of the neediness of love, of what kinds of human needs love responds to. When we move from the movie to Plato, I think we'll see that in Plato's Symposium, Plato has his finger on this kind of issue. The issue about how philosophy particularly wants to control love, to make love manageable, and about whether in the end this strategy of making love manageable, of rationalizing it, of being sensible about it, Plato's examining whether that strategy of being rational and sensible might defeat the very nature of erotic love. Or is there some reconceptualization, some new way of thinking of love that allows philosophy to live up to its own aspirations to rationality without damaging the prospects for erotic love? So, those themes about enjoyment and need will run through the first part of the course. The second part of the course, as we move toward the second half before break, the second quarter of the course, starts to focus on some themes that become available again in Plato's Symposium, but that also have a much more distinctively Catholic ring to them. Questions about the relationship between erotic love and procreation. Until fairly recently, somewhere around 1960, the relationship between erotic love and procreation was, so to speak, inescapable. With the invention of cheap, effective contraceptives, human beings were forced to have a new thought about their sexual relations. The new thought was, will these sexual relations be open to procreation or not? For myself, I think the invention of cheap, effective contraception shouldn't be compared to things, important inventions like the atom bomb or the invention of the automobile, although there's been some connection between cheap, effective contraception and the automobile over the years. I think cheap, effective contraception is much more important than either of those inventions. I think it has to be compared to something closer to, say, the invention of fire, because it changed such a basic, such a fundamental part of the human experience and of what our bodies are, of what it is for us to be incarnate, that we're not even 50 years yet into this new experiment of what the world will be like, when the long natural link between sexuality and procreation has now become a matter that's voluntary, a matter of choice. So that part of the course will focus on the way this question arises, first of all, in a pagan context. in Plato's own dialogue, in the Symposium, that is. And then we'll see how this theme about sexuality, or more generally about the erotic and the procreative, plays itself out in some more contemporary and more distinctively Catholic reflection on the modern erotic world. After the break, we'll turn to marriage as a topic in a more focused way. I hope it doesn't indicate too much about the sad depths of my own psyche that the first thing we'll read after break is Shakespeare's Othello. Not exactly a marriage manual. But it does seem to me that the play Othello, while it's thinking of very many things, as Shakespeare always is thinking in a very deep way about challenges to marriage, about what it is to give oneself in marriage, and maybe even more, what it is to accept the gift of somebody else in a marriage. After all, it's one thing to be willing to give yourself. It's quite another thing to be willing to accept as a gift somebody else. Part of the problem of Othello, both the play and the character within the play, part of the problem of Othello is to work through the vulnerabilities that come upon us when we accept somebody else as a gift. This section of the course will also use two contemporary films that seem to me especially striking on these themes. One is a Woody Allen film, Hannah and Her Sisters, in which Mia Farrow, who plays the title character Hannah, suffers from what I like to think of as big sister syndrome. She's always helping other people and can't accept help from anybody else. So there's a kind of self-sufficiency that, while it's very admirable in Hannah, also makes her very hard to love. And this creates all sorts of interesting questions about why Hannah's so hard to marry. A second movie that we'll be looking at is called The Secret Lives of Dentists. Have any of you seen The Secret Lives of Dentists? The movie's only a couple of years old. I think it's a great... the movie's a lot more interesting than the title. I won't say much more about it now, but it's a movie that focuses on a contemporary couple. They both happen to be dentists. And the question of what would allow them to recommit to their own marriage. Finally, the last part of the course starts to focus on a more general set of philosophical issues about truth. There's this oddity about being in love. When you're the one who's in love, you notice all sorts of wonderful features about the person who's the object of your love, about your beloved. And your roommates can't tell what you're talking about. From a first-person point of view, the beloved is obviously something pretty close to a god. And from a third-person point of view, somebody else's beloved is pretty much not worth the time. At least that was my experience with my roommates. You may have your own stories to tell. This tension between the first-person view of the lover and the third-person view that we're tempted to call the objective observer some of us might say, the person who just has sour grapes, he or she isn't in love. This tension between these two views leads to a host of philosophical questions. Which is the appearance and which is the reality? Is the beauty of the beloved only in the eye of the beholder? Or is the eye of the beholder the true eye? When are you seen for what you really are? When those of us who don't care about you, aren't in love with you, look at you? Are we seeing the real you? Or does the real you become visible only when you're seen with the eyes of love? When you come home from, it says something about Notre Dame that's the only place I can think of. If you were going to have a social space somewhere around Notre Dame that you were going to name the flirting bar, students have told me it's the linebacker. Yeah. There's much to pity in that. But suppose that it were true. So you go to that romantic place of spirits, the linebacker, and when you come home inspirited, and you tell your roommate that you've met the one. Your roommate's lips will laugh, but your roommate's heart will envy. Is it the laughter or the envy that's closer to the truth? The claim of the non-lover to be the truly objective observer might be a defense mechanism. It might not be true at all. So, as we move toward the end of the course, we hope that we've built up a conversation that puts us in a very traditional philosophical place. A place that examines appearance versus reality. But the appearance versus reality question will take on for us the very specific form of the question of the status of the beloved and of our view of the beloved. So, I hope that over the course of the semester, you will find enjoyable and satisfying thinking philosophically about the things that we're going to read and see together that will create a common conversation. Not everything we're going to read and see, and indeed many of the things we're going to read and see, don't count just by themselves as works of philosophy. The point isn't to fill up the syllabus with readings written by philosophers as philosophers. The point instead is that you will be philosophers in the way you take up the things that we do read. I hope that Plato and Shakespeare and the Catholic stuff, I hope it puts you in a position to be more thoughtful, more responsive to the thoughtfulness of the other things that we'll be reading or that we'll be seeing. And the Friday discussion sections are meant to give us some space and some regular opportunities for the kind of conversation that helps our own thoughtfulness along.